Want to come on the best South African road trip ever? This is it. It's a ride from Pretoria to Cape Town via some amazing mountain passes, coastal corners and scenic detours.
We've put together nice distances for riding.
Sama Tours put it together, a 17-day ride of comfortable distances with something for everyone. Twisties, wildlife, African culture, the lot. We came initially for the roads and we got our fill of great riding. You know what it's like, flying up tall, sweeping mountain passes with little traffic. You should have seen the grins in our faces after each one. Don't get me wrong, we didn't treat it like a race. You could make the ride as challenging or relaxing as you wanted. It was always exciting.
I was all over the place.
But the riding's far from the only way that South Africa will lift your spirits. Almost as soon as the ride began, our group became immersed in Africa's rich culture.
But I think the highlight in many ways is the culture and the people.
The thing that's unique about Africa, number one, is the people that we're seeing who are so different.
Been through so many different sort of geographical areas. That's been great. And the different people. The Shanghais to start with, and then the Swazis and the Zulus.
It was a more developed country than some of us were expecting, but with more poverty than others were prepared for. Genuinely, it's a land of contrasts. And we saw contrast all along the way. South Africa's variety astounded us. Every day we'd get up and we knew that we're in for something different.
Top of South Africa right down to the south, the landscape, the people, everything changing as you're coming along. Every day you got up and it was going to be different.
Saw a totally different scenery and lifestyle from what I had seen before. This countryside we went through was just fabulous, totally different.
Swaziland was a highlight. This independent kingdom's landlocked inside South Africa. It's lush and green, like a beautiful microcosm of rustic landscapes and gentle people. And the roads, they were pretty good as well.
The Zulu dancing, I nearly cried listening to them. They were really something.
Now all of that was good, but then the riding stepped up another notch. Talk about being spoiled.
We have some really nice windy mountain roads. It combines quite a lot of great riding.
There are magic roads here, really magic roads. The trip only covers about 10% of South Africa itself, but Sama shows you most of the biking roads along the way, and that's what makes it such a great tour to do.
I ride for the riding, and particularly the cornering and that sort of thing. So
the riding has been fantastic, the windy roads. And
it is interesting that it's the guys with the girls on the back that are doing the speed.
Could compare it to Perth. In Perth we're always worried about traffic infringements, and here I just had a much greater sense of freedom, and you could just open it up from time to time. However, having said that, of course, I was the one that got my photograph taken yesterday.
Today we crossed some beautiful roads, long sweeping corners, and even though we had to bypass the main passes that we were supposed to do because of roadworks, we still got some beautiful curves in there, lovely views, and the sun came out, which was just spectacular. The further we rode into South Africa, the more awesome its wildlife seemed to become. Going into the safari parks was fantastic. On TV you see giraffes, lions and other creatures, but here, where they're right in front of you, it's real life. It's wildly different and a really uplifting experience. South Africa relies on its wildlife resources and prides itself on places like Kruger National Park and all the private game reserves around the place. On the summer tour we visited one of them, stayed inside it, and riding in on the dirt road to get there, we looked across and there's 5 giraffes just standing in the bushes looking at us. You see things like that and it really shakes you up and you think, wow, this really is Africa.
The elephant crossing the road was probably the highlight.
Coming back from Kruger National Park with the elephant stood in the middle of the road, just stopping the traffic. Everyone has to make way for them. You know, it's just
how it should be.
Yeah, it's almost like a cartoon.
Sitting in an open safari car, only 20 metres away from a pair of lions, is an indescribable sensation. You can get so close to the wildlife.
That is about a 2-week trip, just Kruger National Park alone, if you really want to enjoy it. We've got good wildlife, and I think if we don't start looking after it now, we're going to lose a lot of our tourism.
Staying in Hippo Hollow, one of the places along the way, where you can literally be sitting there having a beer on the veranda, and just down below you in the creek there's a hippo swimming past. Just awesome things to see, but you don't want to be out close to them because they're seriously dangerous animals.
When you ride in the park and there comes a lot of ostriches crossing the road in front of you, that's very exotic to me.
From one animal encounter to the next, there was always the wonderful riding. Big open roads, stunning scenery, everyone loved it, and it was always somehow at the right tempo. And the bends, those beautiful fast bends, they just kept coming. We found more perfectly surfaced roads, clear and open corners, all with no traffic to contend with. It was heaven on a bike. They're such flowing bends that you'd think an engineer got his compass, traced this beautiful arc and came up with a perfect radius for every single corner all the way around. The thrills of the roads were balanced by the different things we were seeing. Often it was a non-stop procession of glorious bends with awesome scenery all around. And we get to do things like sit under this incredible tree here, the world's second largest baobab. You can have a beer in the middle of it.
Every day we'd get to the end of the day and I'd think this is the best day we've had. And then next day I'd think this is the best day we've had.
We had no idea that food and drink was going to be so cheap.
Most tours don't include petrol for some reason, and yet this one does. But everything, the food, the alcohol, the bits that we buy around the place are just so inexpensive here that you don't even notice.
For the Aussies on the trip, the connection to South Africa went even deeper than the millions of gum trees that are now spread all over the countryside. Australians have fought and died here in South Africa too. Almost by accident, we've found Breaker Morant's monument. Now Breaker, as you probably know, he was executed by the British during the Boer War, or the Anglo-Boer War as we're supposed to call it while I'm here. The night attack that he was involved in that led to his execution happened about 500 metres down here behind us. That's pretty cool, eh? You can tell Summer Tours has been doing this for a long time because everything just went so well.
It was extremely well organised. The accommodation's been excellent. I don't think there's been any two in the rest of the trip that have even been similar.
And their fleet of BMWs are perfect for it.
I actually had a brand new BMW 1200 GS to ride, which is nothing to scoff at.
I think we had a better experience for the fact that our guides, Jonathan and Julian, they were having a great time too.
We thought, what a wonderful way to earn an income, touring our beautiful country on motorcycles. I thoroughly enjoy my job.
I am a national tour guide. But doing bike tours is basically everybody speaks the same language. Everybody's bikers. We talk bike. That's what makes it so interesting.
They alternate between driving the backup vehicle and riding the lead bike. And so far they've shown us fantastic things, they've got really good knowledge of it, and they're enthusiastic, they love their country, and so being guided by them is a real treat. We've got a fairly big group, it's about 17 people including pillions, 12 bikes, a few people riding in the van constantly, so it's a real mix.
South Africa was on my bucket list. Anyone who doesn't want to get on the bike and wants to go in the vehicle should do it. It is so comfortable, it's easy, it's wonderful.
We have so many different characters on this one. Somebody shines at every moment. We've got so much to laugh about all the time, whereas with a small group, it doesn't have that dynamic. You tell all your jokes and then they're told.
Jonathan does a great job, and his sidekick, Julian, he rides quick, but he gives lots of very good information, and they make sure that we're safe.
There's no doubt that South Africa exceeded our expectations. This Summer Tours trip was more than the best South African road trip ever, as they call it. It was an immersion into Africa and all of its wonders. A sensational ride and an incredible experience.